Good morning. Good morning. Congratulations on your move. Although I have to admit, when they told me that you were moving further east, I couldn't help but think how much east could possibly be left. And then I became truly alarmed when I looked on my map, looked up the new location, and there was just a big space, and it said, "Here be sea monsters." When you drive out here from Brooklyn, you start thinking in those terms. I always drive very gingerly and look here and look there, so gee, I don't want to drive off the end of the earth. But you had a beautiful place here, and I'm sure you'll have a beautiful place where you go because you're a beautiful congregation. And I'm always happy to come out here. Well, my topic today is spiritual house cleaning. And spring is here, finally. Spring is here, and every spring many people perform the ritual known as spring cleaning. And this is, of course, the period in springtime set aside for house cleaning. And this practice appears in various different cultures in different ways. The Zoroastrian New Year falls on the first day of spring, and they have a practice whose name literally translated means shaking the house. I always like that. Translated literally, it means shaking the house, and everything in the house is thoroughly cleaned from the drapes to the furniture. And Passover is coming up, and with it another expression of spring cleaning in which religious Jews thoroughly clean their homes in preparation for the holiday. Because in remembrance of the hasty flight from Egypt following the captivity there, during the 8-day holiday there's a strict prohibition against eating anything which may have been leavened, and all the remnants of it have to be removed from the home for the length of the holiday. And so that cleaning process is beginning. So observant Jews conduct a thorough cleaning of the house before the holiday begins. Now, in the Eastern Orthodox tradition, a Great Lent is a 40-day fasting and preparation period before the celebration of Easter. And Great Lent starts with a clean week, where the faithful fast and partake in spiritual cleansing. And they also traditionally do a big spring cleaning of their homes so that their physical surroundings will match their inner cleanliness. And I always found it very interesting that their physical surroundings will match their inner cleanliness, but we know that that's always true because our physical surroundings, our outer circumstances is always going to match our inside. It's always going to match our consciousness. And so it's expressed in that way. So we see another example of the same idea expressed in different ways in different cultures. So it's time for spring cleaning, and many of us are even now gathering the courage to face this daunting task, because this means emptying overflowing closets, approaching the cluttered attic that we don't even want to think about, as well as the basement that's even worse. So we'll go through our houses and throw out everything that needs to be thrown out, organize what's left, and then clean the whole thing. This is the process we go through. Now, since we're doing this for our house, why not also do it for our thought? So if we're doing this for our houses, for our homes, why not also do it for our thought? Why not check what needs to be thrown out of there? While we're doing this for our homes, why not also do it for our consciousness? Now, there's a story in the Bible about the prophet Elisha that illustrates some of what we should keep in mind as we go about our spiritual house cleaning. And Elisha is one of the great biblical figures who represent the possibilities of what can be attained through the kind of mental science, through the kind of thinking, and through the kind of practice that we believe in here. Now, are these stories true? I don't know if these stories are literally true. Some of them probably are. Many of them probably aren't. But the important thing to remember about them, and to remember about these stories, about these great figures who are described in the Bible, is that the same mind that was in them is in each one of us, and the same laws of life, the same spiritual laws that they used, are available for us to use. And that's what these stories are illustrating for us. And that's what makes them important and what makes them valuable, not whether they were literally true or not. That's a very narrow, restrictive reading of the Bible that really doesn't produce too much good. So with that in mind, I wanted to use this story. And Elijah was helping the widow whose children had been taken into slavery by her late husband's creditor. Well, very simply, she was broke and she needed some money. So Elisha said to her, what shall I do for you? Tell me, what have you in the house? And she said, your maidservant has nothing in the house except a jar of oil. Then he said, go outside, borrow vessels of all your neighbors, empty vessels and not too few. Then go in and shut the door upon yourself and your sons, and pour into all these vessels, and when one is full, set it aside. So she went from him and shut the door upon herself and her sons, and as she poured, they brought the vessels to her. When the vessels were full, she said to her son, bring me another vessel. And her son, he said to her, there is not another. Then the oil stopped flowing. She told this to Elisha, and he said, go, sell the oil and pay your debts, and you and your sons can live on the rest. All right, so what does this story tell us? Well, the first thing is, notice when there were no more vessels, the oil stopped flowing. When there were no more vessels, the oil stopped flowing. And as long as there were vessels to receive it, the oil kept flowing. When there were no more vessels, it stopped, and as long as there were vessels, it continued, and that's the way it is with us. That's the way it is with us. As long as we provide receptivity to the infinite substance of the universe, what we call that infinite substance of the universe, it'll flow through our lives. But if we stop providing a vessel to receive it, it's going to stop flowing. So the story tells us that. But then notice that Elisha asked the woman, tell me, what have you in the house? What have you in the house? Elisha started with what she had, and he went on from there. He started with what she had and went on from there, and that's exactly what we do. In The Science of Mind, a book by Dr. Ernest Holmes, in The Science of Mind, Dr. Holmes writes, there is a law of unfoldment in man, which says he can advance only by going from where he is to the place where he would like to be. This is not because the law is limited, but because it is law. As man unfolds in his mentality, the law automatically reacts to him. The way to work is to begin right where we are, and through constantly applying ourselves to the truth, we gradually increase in wisdom and understanding, for in this way alone will good results be obtained. So we start where we are with what we have and work with that. Now see, we enslave ourselves through the misuse of our minds, and we can free ourselves through the correct use of our minds. And the way to begin is to ask ourselves, what have you in the house? To ask ourselves, what have you in the house? And begin to look at that and go through that process of spiritual house cleaning, throwing out what we don't need, organizing what's left, and then cleaning the whole thing. Now, when you do this, your mental house cleaning, you may start to worry about some of the negativity you find. This happens, and we start to worry about it. So if that happens, though, find one positive. Find one positive. Find a little something that can be recognized and that can be expanded. And you're equipped to do this because your mind is a spiritual instrument. Your mind is a spiritual instrument. See, spirituality isn't something unusual. It's not something occult. It's not something that only special people have. We all have it. We all have it. We don't become spiritual. We already are spiritual. We don't even become more spiritual. Some people look for all kinds of ways, how am I going to become more spiritual? So they go here and they go there and they go do this and they go do that. And this guru and that guru and the other one, all to become more spiritual. But we don't become more spiritual because we're already as spiritual as we're ever going to be. Right now, sitting here or standing here, we're as spiritual as we're ever going to be. Now, what we do through all of these activities, through all of these things that we do, what we can do is increase our recognition of this spirituality and our use of it. We increase our recognition of the spirituality and our use of it to allow it to function more effectively in our lives. That's what we're doing. We're not becoming spiritual. We're not becoming more spiritual. We're already there. What we're doing is recognizing it and using it. See, spirit is at our center, and spirit at our center is always trying to give us more wisdom, more love, more creativity, more peace, more of every good thing. And it does this because it's its nature to do so. It's its nature to do so. At our center is the living spirit. At our center is the living spirit that we find when we do our spiritual and our mental house cleaning. But cluttered all around this are human opinions, our beliefs, but that center is always there. No matter what's accumulated around it, the center is always there, and the center is always free. Now, try this if you dare. I'm going to give you a little challenge. The next time you're walking through the mall or, downtown, ask an average person, do you know that the total spirit of life is at the center of your being? Just go up to someone and ask them that. Do you? Now, we actually tried that in a sense, in a way. A few years ago, our center took a table at the it was the Business and Community Expo at the Broadway Mall in Hicksville. And we had a table, and we didn't ask people in exactly that way. But we had all our material out, and in effect, this is what we were doing, and you can imagine the reaction. The reaction is basically people will look at you like you're crazy, or say, yes, but so what? Or something like that, or just walk very gingerly by, as they did with us. I don't think we're going to be doing that for a while. But if you feel up to it, that's my challenge to you the next time you're shopping in the mall. So, what we believe about this makes us different than that average person. What we believe about this makes us different from that average person, because we know that the total spirit of life is at the center of our being and how important that is to us. The spirit of life is always there at the center and gives of itself when given a chance. When given a chance, it's going to give of itself. Now, your spiritual work is your house cleaning. And by spiritual work, I mean your study, your meditation, affirmative prayer, all of those things that you do as a regular practice. Coming here, all of these things that you do as a regular practice, as part of your regular routine. And when you do this, when you're doing these things, you're getting rid of some of the clutter around this spiritual center, giving it a chance to come out. And what comes out is that which is real. And this center is expressing something that is infinite. It's expressing spirit. So it's expressing something that's infinite. And therefore, it contains the possibility of the unlimited, unconditioned use of our lives. This is what's at our center, a potential, a possibility of the unlimited, unconditioned use of ourselves. Unlimited, unconditioned use of ourselves. See, right now we're becoming our tomorrow. That could be a disturbing thought sometimes, depending on what's happening in the right now. But still, right now, we're becoming our tomorrow. Because everything we're thinking, saying, and doing now is forming tomorrow's experience. So we can ask ourselves, what isn't there in my mind that would restrict me? What is there in my mind that would restrict me? What is there in my mind now that's going to create something tomorrow, because our thought is creative? I had to get that in, that all thought is creative. So we ask ourselves, what's in there now that would restrict us? What's in there now that would create something that we don't want? Because this is the old stuff that needs to be thrown away. This is the old stuff that needs to be thrown away. So once we've identified that, we remind ourselves that at the center, there at the center of us is the means to the know-how to do this. At our center is the means and know-how to do this. House cleaning, so to speak. So we work from the inside to make the outside what we want it to be. If we want health, wealth, love, and self-expression on the outside, then we start from the center, build it at the center so that it can express in the outer. So, as Elisha asked the woman, I'll ask you, what have you in the house? What have you in the house? Find out what's in your mental house. And then get out your mental vacuum cleaner, floor mop, silver polish, industrial strength janitor in a drum, whatever you need, and start cleaning. You can shake your house, as that wonderful tradition, custom says. You can shake your house, and when you find things that are wrong, mentally say, I'm throwing these out. That's what it is. It's a mental action. Mentally say, I'm throwing these out. I am rid of them. They are gone. And when the clutter is gone and you found those jewels within your consciousness, those good things that are within your consciousness, expand on them. Expand on them, nurture them, and allow them to produce the kind of experience of life that you really desire. And so ends the lesson. Thank you.